Well, as Americans reflect on what today means, so too does the rest of the world. The Australia we're in right now is very different to the one we woke up in this morning. Political analyst Tom Switzer joins me on the desk. Tom, to those who dismissed Donald Trump as a relic, they wrote him off. Look what happened today.
Well, one can be a critic of Donald Trump and recognise that he has just tapped into these widespread anxieties among a lot of working class Americans. I think the Democrats have lost their working class base because of their support for globalisation, identity politics, lax border controls, the forever wars. And Trump has presided over a realignment of not just the Republican Party, but also American politics. It's truly an extraordinary comeback.
Well, he focused on the economy, he focused on immigration. Clearly that cut through.
Well, indeed. And I think one of the reasons why he won is that the post-COVID big spending policies of the Biden administration just led to a surge in inflation that led to lower real wages. And that hurt a lot of low-income Americans who don't have college degrees. They've been decimated by globalisation. And their saviour was Donald Trump.
OK, so looking here, what do you think our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, is thinking right now? Because we've got to remember too, if you go back to 2019, our PM said that Donald Trump, and I'll quote, scares the shit out of him. Probably regretting that now. Is that something that will come back to bite him?
I don't think so, because you have to remember when Malcolm Turnbull became Prime Minister, the media like to play back a lot of the critical things he said about Donald Trump. And although Turnbull's very critical of Trump today, when he was in office, he had a pretty decent relationship with Trump. Now, I think the Australia-US alliance is above these personality differences.
So Donald Trump's shtick is always America first. So he wants to get tougher on tariffs. Could we then get caught in this crossfire between the US and China?
Well, if he honours his election pledge and puts a 60% across-the-board tariff against China, that will be a trade war, and that is not in Australia's interest. One of the reasons why we have a budget surplus in this country, in fact, it's the main reason, is because we export a lot of coal, gas and iron ore to our largest trading partner, China. So we don't want to get caught up into that trade war.
And you're talking about tariffs there for Australia, sort of around 10% or something, but I think our exports to the US only account for about 4%.
Yes, but China, the United States is still our largest foreign investor. Yep. It's a very important relationship, both economically and on the security front.
Do you think he'd actually do that, though? I know he's threatening 60%. Could he actually do it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's changed in Washington over the course of the last few years is that both Republicans and Democrats have moved away from free trade and globalisation. It's a dirty word in small-town America. So Trump, in many respects, reflects this new orthodoxy in Washington to get tough with trade cheats like China. The problem is that we could be affected by the fallout from that trade war, because it is our largest trading partner.
Yeah, and that could hurt us a lot. But then, I think if, say, like Anthony Albanese is a little bit nervous now, spare a thought for the Ukrainian president. What happens with that war and in the Middle East with Donald Trump as president?
Well, I think Trump wants to shut down the war. And look, the cold hard reality is that the Ukrainians are outmanned, they're outgunned. There was a decent chance in April of 2022, shortly after the Russian invasion, where the Ukrainians and the Russians came very close to a peace deal. At the time, Russia only had 7% of Ukraine. Now they've got 22%. So it's in America's interest, it's probably in Ukraine's interest to shut it down. The problem is that means that Russia would have 20% of Ukraine, including the Crimea, which is the home of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. It'd be humiliating for America, but otherwise a war's just going to continue. Yep. America's going to waste more money on a useless cause because more Ukrainians will die and Russia's going to get more territory. And
Trump has already shown that he just doesn't have the appetite for that. But then what about something as sensitive as what's happening in the Middle East?
Well, look, Trump has distinguished himself from the neoconservatives in the Republican Party who executed the Iraq invasion, and he's distinguished himself from the liberal interventionists in the Biden administration who supported all these so-called forever wars. America is tired of war, and Trump appeals to those anxieties. But Trump is also very pro-Israel, so he'll have to try to reconcile his strong support for Israel with his dovish sentiments on foreign policy.
OK, so why do you think Australians are so invested in this? Is this because we're concerned about the impact here at home, or is part of it we just kind of like the theatre?
Well, I think there is a lot of that. There's a lot of theatre involved, especially when you're talking about a flamboyant character in Donald Trump. But look, no, I think the United States alliance has been, since the end of World War II, is and will continue to be the centrepiece of Australian foreign policy. It's an important foreign investor in Australia. And I think increasingly more countries in the region are worried about China. And both sides of politics in Canberra, both the Coalition and the Labor, are committed to getting close to Uncle Sam to check and balance the rising China threat.
Okay, so is a Trump presidency again, is it a good or bad thing for Australia?
Look, I think he's unpredictable. He's erratic. But remember, he was president from 2017 to 2020, and it didn't really hurt the US-Australia relationship. So let's try to be optimistic, Ali.
And you know what? It ain't going to be dull, Tom, is it?
You might have me back again.